warm welcome here in our studio in Serekunda. This is Star TV News and I am Memniju Fadera. In the headlines tonight, Jack Ma Foundation donates medical items to Ministry of Health. South Africa Global donates to Banjul City Council and Kanifing Municipal Council. 4 COVID-19 patients recovered, reveals Health Ministry. Red Cross ambulance somersaults on the Banjul Highway on its way to the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital in Banjul, killing its patient. On the international scene, Donald Trump contradicts health officials. UK faces criticisms over COVID-19 testing strategy. Turkey imposes COVID-19 movement curbs before Ramadan begins. Well, those were the headlines, and now the news in details. The Ministry of Health received a number of medical facilities from the Jack Ma and Alibaba Foundation on Monday. Among the items that were donated include test kits, thermometers and ventilators, which are all very essential equipments in the fight against the coronavirus. Maria Madem files in this report.
While expressing his sincere gratitude, the Minister of Health, Dr. Amadou Samate, stated that getting these equipments has been a very big challenge even with adequate funds. Therefore, these equipments will go a long way in the fight against this killer disease, COVID-19.
But of course, we have also known that getting these items has become a worldwide challenge. They are scarce worldwide. People are struggling. They have the funds. Sometimes they cannot even find a place to buy these items. So if we get these as donations from the government of the People's Republic of China, we are very, very grateful. These go to strengthen our resolve, to strengthen our commitment, to strengthen our collective strategies to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic and also to contain the disease in this country.
Minister Samate noted that the ventilators received will be put to good use. It is what patients use when they undergo respiratory failures, so they are very crucial. He also made mention of the donated thermometers and how important they will be in this fight against COVID-19. He further said that they will be distributed to all healthcare facilities throughout the country, as well as social settings like borders and garages.
That quite a percentage of the people who get infected with the coronavirus at the end of the day will need the use of ventilators, which increases their chance of survival when they go into respiratory failure. Their respiration needs to be supported. So the ventilators are very, very important, and these ventilators will be put to very good use. They are all going to be set ready just in case we need them. The thermometers are part of these donations also. Thermometers are very, very important, and yesterday as well we got a whole lot of thermometers that people have been yearning for. What that means is that all the health facilities in this country now will have these thermometers where the healthcare workers can check the temperature of individuals coming into the facilities without contact. So that is very important. That also goes to reduce the transmission of infection from one patient to the other.
Moreover, the minister urges all Gambians to stick by all the measures given by WHO and believe that COVID-19 exists and it's very dangerous. He also took this opportunity to thank all the healthcare personnel for their tremendous efforts and sacrifices in helping to contain the disease. He also shows appreciation to the Jack Ma and Alibaba Foundation and the Chinese Embassy for all the support they have been given throughout the times since Gambia reported its first case. The minister also thanked WHO for the support they have been given since the beginning of the pandemic. Jack Ma Foundation is a charitable organization founded in 2014 by Jack Ma, executive chairman of Alibaba Group. Jack Ma is a philanthropic organization focused on improving the lives of the less privileged all over the world. Maria Madem, reporting for Star TV News.
Tough Global Africa, under the leadership of Mustafa Njai, presented a check of $250,000 to the Banjul City Council and $100,000 to Kanifing Municipal Council to help play their role in the fight against the COVID-19. Binta Kohli was there and she now reports.
Since the Gambia registered her first case in March, many philanthropists in the country have made numerous donations to help fight the global pandemic. Tough Africa Global is not an exception, as they are seen on many occasions reaching out to the needy Gambians. Mustafa Njai, founder of Tough Africa Global, gave a brief explanation of why he decided to come to the aid of the capital city of Banjul and some societies in Banjul, in which he himself is an active member.
And privileged to be here today to support Banjul as a city through the mayoress and her council. Well, just briefly, I would just like to emphasize the fact that everybody do know that I am a Banjulian. I mean, I am a Banjulian with parents and grandparents all born in Banjul. But apart from that, I mean, I believe in the city, I believe in Banjul, I practice being here. I am a member of a lot of initiatives in this city. On the religious and cultural side of it, I am the vice chairman of King Fahad Mosque, and I belong to a lot of societies traditionally here and also culturally.
Rohi Malik Low saw appreciation and thanked Tough Africa Global Company for coming to the aid of Banjul.
Tafanjai and Global Tough Africa, I sincerely want to thank you. We are honored, we are grateful, and I also want to say something here. Tough is not only somebody who will come to give you something. He will give us advices also as young mayors. He is somebody that we will many times disagree with him, but he will tell us, I am saying this for your own interest. And at the end of the day, when you dig deeper, you will know that he is only advising us to make us a better person.
Mustafa Njai further proceeded to Kanifing Municipal Council, where he also presented a check of $100,000. Receiving the donation on behalf of KMC, CEO Seinabu Sonko Martin thanked Tough Africa Global and said the money will be put in proper use, as the municipality is doing everything in their capacity to stop the virus. At the BCC, similar donations were made by Empire and Busra Holdings, who donated $75,000, Prime Insurance donated $50,000, and Gunshot with an amount of $20,000. Binta Kohli, Star TV News.
The Gambia's Health Ministry has announced Wednesday that 4 persons who were infected by coronavirus and underwent have been recovered. The acting director of Health Services, Mustafa Abite, told the press that the recovered patients are set to be discharged from the hospitals.
This is the 32nd National Situation Report since the confirmation of the first case in the Gambia on the 17th of March 2020. 6 laboratory results received and all tested negative for COVID-19. Of these results, 4 are repeat tests of the active cases. So these second consecutive negative test results for each of the 4 patients are indicative of recovery from COVID-19. So it means that they are set for discharge. 5 new persons taken into quarantine, and all of these 5 are Gambians returning from Senegal via Jiboro border post. 1 person discharged from quarantine after testing negative for COVID-19 upon completion of the quarantine mandatory period. A total of 102 contacts of the recently confirmed cases are traced out of the expected total of 105. The country currently has 97 persons under quarantine, 3 active cases, and no probable case. There are no new cases recorded today.
A Red Cross ambulance donated by Banjul City Council a couple of months ago was involved in an accident in the late hours of Wednesday evening around the Denton Bridge. The ambulance was said to be rushing a heart attack patient to the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, but somersaulted on its way due to an obstruction caused by an unknown vehicle. The patient was pronounced dead, but it's not clear if he died on the spot or at the hospital. Well, our own Dado Cham was at the scene of the accident, and she now reports to keep us updated.
On our way from a press briefing in Banjul, we happened to come across the scene of an accident that just happened minutes ago. An eyewitness on the ground told us that the ambulance somersaulted on its way to the main referral hospital just few meters away from the Denton Bridge. 4 people were in the ambulance: a driver, 2 Red Cross volunteers, Ibrahim Jammeh, Ablaiba, and a patient, and they were all rushed to the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital by another ambulance. One of the volunteers, Ibrahim Jammeh, sustained a leg injury and is currently under treatment, while Ablaiba sustained no injury. At the hospital, Ablaiba explained to Star TV that the accident happened as a result of an obstruction caused by another car that refuses to give way to the ambulance, causing the driver of the ambulance to lose control of the vehicle. He, however, did reveal to us that the patient, Ibrahim Mbai, was in a critical condition before the accident happened. Ibrahim Mbai was a former teacher and a husband to the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Aminata Mbai. He served as an educationist and also serves the Banjul City Council, BCC, in various capacities and portfolios. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Dado Cham.
And now the news beyond our borders. U.S. President Donald Trump has dismissed the possibility of a severe second wave of coronavirus infection later in the year. During a press briefing, he seemed to once again contradict his own health officials. He also officially signed an executive order suspending immigration for 60 days, something Trump says will safeguard jobs. Al Jazeera's Mike Hannon reports from the Washington, D.C.
Man who's done a very good job for us, Dr. Robert Redfield, was totally misquoted in the media on a statement about the fall season and the virus. Totally misquoted.
The president demanded the director of the Centers for Disease Control walk back his warning about a second wave of coronavirus. Uncomfortably, Robert Redfield did not do so, disputing the headline above the initial interview, but confirming he had been accurately quoted.
I didn't say that this was going to be worse. I said it was going to be more complicated or more difficult and potentially complicated because we'll have flu and coronavirus circulating at the same time.
The president sought support from another of his medical experts, Dr. Deborah Birx.
And making sure you're protected.
When you say there's a good chance that COVID will not come back?
We don't know.
Or if it comes back, it's in a very small confined area that we put out.
Well, the great thing is we'll be able to find it earlier this time. And I think that's what we're talking about. We'll find those cases earlier. So what Dr. Redfield said, we would be able to stay in containment phase.
President Trump continued to push back against potential future threat, and in answer to a reporter's question, argued the virus may not come back at all.
What it is estimated, it might not come back at all, Jeff. It may not come back at all. He's talking about a worst-case scenario where you have a big flu and you have some corona. And if it does come back, it's not going to come back, and I've spoken to 10 different people, it's not going to be like it was.
Apparently, one of these 10 people the president spoke to was not the country's foremost medical expert. Dr. Anthony Fauci was adamant there would be a second wave of the virus later this year.
There will be coronavirus in the fall. If we do, which we won't, but let's take an imaginary period. We say, okay, coronavirus, forget about it. We're not going to do anything about it. It will take off. That's what viruses do. But that's not what's going to happen. We are going to respond to it to not allow it to do that.
Early on Wednesday, President Trump planted a tree marking Earth Day. But given the disagreement that played out in the evening briefing, his medical experts could well fear that he's also planting the seeds of misinformation. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Coronavirus cases are still on the rise across Europe as countries grapple with measures to contain its spread. Spain is debating whether to extend its lockdown, but other nations have taken small steps to ease restriction. In the UK, the government has faced criticisms over its testing strategy. More than 18,000 people have died in hospital. Al Jazeera's Sonia Galago has more on the situation across Europe.
The House of Commons, normally rowdy for Wednesday's Prime Minister's questions, resumed its business, with social distancing firmly in place, without Boris Johnson at the helm. In his place, the Foreign Secretary.
Since the start of the outbreak, we've delivered 1 billion items of personal protective equipment, and tens of millions have been distributed via the devolved administrations.
But the government has been under fire over its coronavirus pandemic strategy. By the end of the month, the Health Secretary had promised the UK would be conducting 100,000 tests a day. It is currently carrying out 18,000 per day, with a capacity for 40,000. A fact seized on by the new opposition Labour Party leader.
And there's a pattern emerging here. We were slow into lockdown, slow on testing, slow on protective equipment, and now slow to take up these offers from British firms.
I don't accept his premise that we've been slow. We have been guided by the scientific advice, the chief scientific advice, the chief medical officer at every step along this way.
The number of deaths in the UK continues to rise, with more than 18,000 recorded at hospitals around the country. The Health Secretary has said that the country has reached the peak of the pandemic, but no one is contemplating lifting the lockdown soon. In Spain, officials in Madrid gathered to close a makeshift morgue set up at an ice rink in the capital. The country has seen the second highest number of deaths from COVID-19 in Europe. During the worst phase to date, the military had been transferring bodies here on a daily basis. Now the government is about to loosen the lockdown to allow children, accompanied by parents, to go out for the first time in weeks. But this is not a rushed manoeuvre. The restrictions will remain in place until the middle of May. And if the epidemic worsens, the government will impose them again. But the worry of a financial meltdown here is still prevalent, with the Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez calling on the European Council to give financial aid to EU countries.
The European Council must welcome the financial package approved by the Eurogroup and demand the completion of the preparatory work so that the instruments are implemented by June the 1st. This is the key for Europe and, consequently, for our country.
Sweden's decision to stay open had been criticised by its neighbouring countries for putting the economy over public health. Nearly 2,000 people have died there from COVID-19. But even without going into lockdown, its export-dependent economy has been hit hard. State relief measures are being put in place, but even with that aid, it will still see a financial slump, like everywhere else affected by the pandemic. Sonia Gallego, Al Jazeera.
Turkey has imposed a 4-day lockdown in 31 provinces to try and stop the spread of the coronavirus as the country prepares for the Ramadan fast. Critics say previous partial movement restriction moves were badly organized and ineffectual, but health officials say the infection rate is starting to plateau. Well, Al Jazeera's Sina Kosaglu reports from Istanbul, Turkey.
People line up in front of supermarkets, stocking up for a 4-day curfew in major cities, including Istanbul. This is the third curfew since early April, but this one is longer, merging the weekend with a national holiday and the start of Ramadan. They're all geared up, masked on, keeping the required social distance.
We have always been going with a little bit of stock in the house as much as we can. So it's okay. We have enough time to get prepared for the 4 days curfew. And I am glad that this time they have announced earlier.
To avoid a repeat of the chaos seen during the first curfew, markets and grocery stores will not shut down in the first 2 days. Bakeries will be open on weekend and certain job sectors are exempted from the curfew. The government has avoided a full lockdown to keep the economy ticking over.
Whatever's necessary for health should be followed. If they say don't go out, then we should do that.
The government has imposed measures encouraging self-isolation, shutting down cafes and restrictions on indoor and outdoor activities. A curfew has been imposed on seniors above 65 and people below 20 years old to try to halt the spread of the disease.
We are doing well so far. We're taking measures without interrupting daily life. Of course, there are shortcomings, but we've done well.
Most of the COVID-19 cases in Turkey are in Istanbul, the country's economic capital. 16 million people live in the city. That's 20% of the country's population. Without a full lockdown, almost 4 million people use public transport every day. Some say this is a high risk. The number of people on the streets of Istanbul has fallen over the last few weeks as a result of measures to curb the virus. But the famous Istiklal Street in Taksim, Istanbul's tourist gem, has never been so quiet. The police will patrol here over the next 4 days and will take legal action against those who violate the restrictions. Officials say Turkey has almost reached a plateau in the coronavirus outbreak, and life will return to relative normality after a month. Turkish people will need to be patient for a while yet. Sinem Kösoğlu, Al Jazeera, Istanbul.
And before we end the news, a recap of our main headlines. Jack Ma Foundation donates medical items to Ministry of Health. Tough Africa Global donates to Banjul City Council and Kanifing Municipal Council. 4 COVID-19 patients recovered, reveals Health Ministry. Red Cross ambulance somersaults on the Banjul Highway on its way to the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital in Banjul, killing its patient. Donald Trump contradicts health officials. UK faces criticisms over COVID-19 testing strategy. Turkey imposes COVID-19 movement curbs before Ramadan begins. Well, that's all for this edition of the news. Please enjoy the rest of our programs and join us tomorrow for more news. Ramadan Mubarak. Thanks for watching.